let's do something like this. 2x to the 5th plus 4x to the 3rd minus 5x squared plus 1 minus 4x to the 4th plus 2x cubed minus 2. All right, begin. Okay, there is a 2x to the 5th, but there isn't anything else, so 2x to the 5th stays by itself. We have an 4x to the 4th, but you have this minus sign there, so you better put minus 4x to the 4th. And now you have an x cubed and an x cubed, but again you have the minus sign, so 4x cubed, and this minus sign, the 2, gives you a 2x cubed. You have a minus 5x squared, and there's not an x squared in the other term, so it's just minus 5x squared. And you have a 1 minus a minus 2. Change, 3. Who got it right? Okay, what did we miss? Where'd you make your mistake? Check it out. What?
I tried to factor it.
Oh, yeah. So right away, make sure you're looking for the minus sign between things. That just means put common things together. Okay? All right, let's move on. 4xy squared minus 2xy plus 6xy squared all over 5xy squared. Begin. So I didn't mean for the first term and the third term there to be the same, but we'll go ahead and deal with that. 4xy squared all over 5xy squared minus 2xy all over 5xy squared plus 6xy squared all over 5xy squared. Okay? If you simplified the top, you're going to end up with the same answer anyway. Okay, so if you put those together on the top first, that's all right. So that's 1, that's just 4/5. On the right side, that's 1, that's 6/5. So together, you have a positive 4/5 and a positive 6/5. That's 10/5 or 2. In the middle, that x cancels, or reduces, excuse me. And one of these y's at the top reduces with one of those y's. So you have a minus 2 over 5y. And that is the final answer. Anybody get that? Let's see here. No, rats. Let's take this and do this. Did you factor out the top, or did you? What did you do? I mean, did you put those two together? The first.
I just kind of like combined the like terms.
Right. So 4xy squared plus 6xy squared.
Yeah, and then I guess I just didn't divide 100% properly. Yeah.
Okay, so there's what you get if you put the top two together. But then again, at that point, if you want to, you can factor and reduce, or you can separate the fractions. You can do either one. You're going to get the same answer eventually. So what did you want to do here?
What I ended up doing, I took the 10 and 5y, divided them, but then I also divided the x and the y squared. I thought that just canceled out the bottom, so the bottom wasn't there anymore.
Oh, and so you were left with the negative 2xy.
So I just left with
Yeah, you can't cancel. It has to go into both. That's why you need to separate them so you don't make that mistake. Anybody else do something different after this point? Okay, again, I would separate them. But you don't have to. You can factor. You're still going to get the same answer. So there's 2, and the x and the y squared, they reduce. The x reduces here, 1y reduces with one of those, and you're still left with 2 over 5y. Still get the same answer. All right, let's move on. Oh, what about these types of problems? Smarty pants. 2 minus the square root of x and 2 plus the square root of x. Begin. Okay, so what you should recognize is this is a minus b, a plus b, and you get a squared minus b squared, which is you square the first, you get 4, and you square the second, you get x, and put a minus sign between it. That's your answer. Do this. 27y cubed minus 64. Difference of cubes. Cubed root has a minus sign, so the minus sign is first, and the rest are pluses. The cubed root of 27y cubed is 3y. The cubed root of 64 is 4. Square the first, 9y squared. Square the second, and put them together. And that is the answer. Questions? Let's do 3x minus 9 over x squared plus 6x plus 9 plus 2x over x squared minus 9 plus 8 over x minus 3. Okay, here we go. The denominator here reduces or factors into x plus 3x plus 3. The second one is x plus 3x minus 3. And the top here, factor out of 3, you get an x minus 3. All right. And now you have to add fractions, so they need the same denominators. So the first one's missing an x minus 3. Okay, so multiply by x minus 3. This middle one is missing an x plus 3, so you got to multiply by an x plus 3. And the last one's missing 2 x plus 3s, which is, I'm going to write it up here like this because you're going to have to put them together. All right, x minus 3 times x minus 3. Or I'll just take x minus 3 times the 3x minus 9. It's the same thing. Distribute. 3x squared minus 9x and minus 9x is minus 18x. And negative 3 times negative 9 is positive 27. Plus, distribute the 2x. 2x squared plus 6x. Distribute the 8. 8x squared plus 6x plus 9. That's your numerator. Put it all together. 3, 5, 13x squared. 18 and 6. Negative 18 and 6 is negative 12. And add another 6 is negative 6. So negative 6x. 27 and 9 is 36. And your denominator, x plus 3 squared, x minus 3. That's it. All right, number 7 from the quiz. I think I did this on the previous video, but we'll go ahead and write it out. No, that's all right. I'm just telling whoever's watching this, they've probably already seen it. Okay, notice that you have the 1/3 on the outside and the 1/2 on the inside here. That's what's important. The 1/3 is on the 8 and the r. So really what that means is cubed root. Cubed root of 8 is 2. And I don't know the cubed root of r, so it's just, I'm going to leave it as r to the 1/3. Times the 2 times the r to the 1/2. Many people took the square root of 2 and r. But the 1/2 is only on the r. Okay, so when you do that, you get 4 and 1/3 plus 1/2. Common denominator, add them together, you get 4r to the 5/6.
So that's what I did wrong.
All right. Number 6 on the quiz was 3y cubed to the 4th. Oh, I saw this a lot. 4y squared to the negative 3. The negative 3 is on the outside of the parentheses, and we need to make it positive. And the negative 3 has nothing to do with the positive or negative of the problem. A negative exponent just says you got to move the thing. That's all it means. A lot of people put negative 12. Okay, you can't do that. So really, this is what it looks like. 3y cubed to the 4th over 4y squared to the positive 3 now. Then you distribute. On the top, you get 81y to the 12th. On the bottom, again, that's not 12. That's 64 y to the 6th. And those reduce, 81 y to the 6th over 64. Okay, number 10 on the quiz. I think we did this in 2. The 5th root of this whole thing, 5x to the 7th, y squared over 8x cubed. So the first thing you should do is always try to simplify. So x to the 7th over x cubed, that's going to be the 5th root of 5x to the 4th y squared, all over the 5th root of 8. So I reduced and I split the radical apart. You okay with that step? All right. And then you're supposed to rationalize the denominator. Whether the directions tell you to or not, that's expected from this point on. Later on, there'll be some problems where I'll be like, okay, just leave it in the denominator for this. You've done all this work. That's fine where it's at. But on a problem like this, if you see a radical in your denominator, get rid of it. Okay? So that's really 8 to the 1/5, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're going to multiply by 8 to the 4/5 on the top and the bottom. So then on the bottom, what do you get? 8. Okay. On the top, again, this is just the same thing as the 5th root of 8 to the 4th. So I'm just putting them together now. So the 5th root of 8 to the 4th times the 5 times x to the 4th times y squared. So again, you could tell me what that is. I'm not worried about that right now. If you had that, I would take it. Okay, number 9. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was what was asked in the other classes. The 3/2 is on everything. So a couple different ways you could go about doing it. If you distribute, okay, 4 to the 3/2, x to the 3/2, you could do it this way. That's the square root of 4 cubed. That's the square root of x cubed. Okay, 4 cubed is 64. The square root of 64 is 8. And then again, you need to understand how to do x to the 3/2. So x to the 1 1/2. That's the same thing as x times x to the 1/2, isn't it? All right, well, the square root's only on the last part. So that's what you should have had at the end. Again, you could have done it a different way. Another way to look at this, I would go ahead and just say, hey, what's the square root of 4x cubed? Okay? And if you do it this way, you can go ahead and do what 4x cubed is. That'd be 64x cubed. And break it apart, and eventually it looks like the other one. The other way to think about this is the 3/2 there, which is kind of what we talked about when we did this. Again, that's 4x to the 1 1/2, which is the same thing as 4x to the first times 4x to the 1/2, isn't it? 1 plus 1/2 is 3/2, isn't it? All right, well, that's not a square root. That's just 4x. But the problem is, and I saw this on some of the papers, you now have the square root of 4x, and you stopped there and said, hey, that's the answer. but you can take the square root of 4, can't you? So if you take the square root of 4, that's 2, and that's where you get another 8x from. So it's the exact same as what we had before, you just did it differently. It's not easy either way. Let's do something, let me give you something similar to what from section 3 and 4, okay? So let's take a look at something like this. Negative 2x cubed plus 5x squared minus x plus 10 plus, oh, I could do a minus, I guess, 4x cubed minus 4x squared minus 4. All right, everybody do that real fast. Okay, so technically, because this is a plus sign and there's nothing to distribute, you don't need your parentheses. If that were a minus sign, you'd have to distribute the minus through. So all you're doing now is looking for x cubes. So negative 2 and positive 4 is 2. And you have x squared now. So it's a positive 5 minus a 4. And then you have a negative x, and there's no x in the other term, so that disappears, right? No. And then you have a 10 and a minus 4 is 6. Who got it right? What? I mean, nobody's going to get a 0 on the test tomorrow?
Yes.
Did you get it right?
Yeah.
All right.
How many was it going to be?
1.
Oh.
I debated on even putting that on there, but I thought, no, you'll have a hard one, so let's give you a really easy one. All right. This one should be easy. Okay. I got to try to make it up here.
You do it. I believe in you.
20 x squared y to the third plus 15 xy squared minus 5 xy. Hey, all over 5 x cubed y to the first. All right. Now, a couple different ways you could do this. You could factor the top first if you wanted to, but I think it would be better if you split them into 3 fractions. It doesn't matter. You get the same answer, okay? So I would take 20x squared y cubed over the 5x cubed y. 15xy squared over the 5x cubed y. And the 5xy over the 5x cubed y. Okay? So the 20 goes into the 5 4 times. And 2 of these cancel with 2 of those, leaving 1 on the bottom. And we have y squared there. And you have a 3. One of these x's reduces with one of those, leaving an x squared in the bottom. The 1y reduces with one of those, leaving 1 in the top. All right. And the 5 over 5 is 1. One of these x's reduces with one of those. One of these y's reduces, oh, that's just 1, y over y. So what do you have on the top?
1.
A 1.
Just went like that.
Now, what's that? You could put them both together. You also could try to put an x back in the first one. If you got to here, I would take it. If you put an x in the first one because you were trying to put everything together so you could have a common denominator, then you'd have 4y squared x plus 3y minus 1 all over x squared. I would take that as well. Guys, I'm not looking necessarily for the exact same answer. I am looking for the correct process. So whatever process you choose, these two are the same, aren't they? I made this up, so the one on the test is going to work out better than this one. Okay. Hint, hint, hint. Oh no. At least one. 27y cubed minus 64. Do it. A lot of times what books will do is they'll take a cubed root like this. Don't do this. They'll multiply everything by 2. So they'll be like 54y cubed minus 128. And you're like, I can't take the cubed root of 54, so I can't do the problem. But what you should always do in every problem is factor, if you can, something out of it. So you could have factored a 2 out of this. All right, so that, just a warning, that's, if it looks like it's going to be a cube,
Make sure
it probably is. Just try to figure it out. All right, so you can take the cube root of each of these. So there's a minus sign. Where does it go? First. What's the cubed root? 3y. What's the cubed root?
3.
4. Square the first. Square the second. Or the last, whatever. And multiply the two together. Seriously, that should take you less than, or definitely less than 10 seconds. Don't come in tomorrow without knowing that. I mean, that's dumb. So that should be 2 problems out of the 15 that you don't have any issues with. Okay. Here, do this one. 4 plus the square root of z times 4 minus the square root of z. Okay? You should have recognized that this is a plus b, a minus b, which is just the square of each of those with a minus sign. 4 squared is 16. The square of a square root is just what's underneath it. That's your answer.
Ooh. I did. Square of 2 times 4. Square of 2 times 2.
That's 16 minus 4 square root of z. And then you have a plus 4 square root of z. And then you have a minus, oops, z, sorry, without the square root. And then these cancel out. Right? So you're left with a 16 minus z. Okay, it'll work both ways.